Hi, this is my Aunt Effie. Today I'm going to talk about a really special book, and I'm going to try to do right by this book. I did not get to finish it, but it is a library book and it's extremely hard to read, and when I tried to renew it, probably for the second time, I can't renew it because somebody else wants to read it, and I'm glad that people are reading it because this thing is it really is something. It's called All That She Carried: The Journey of Ashley's Sack, a Black Family Keepsake by Tia Miles. So this is what Tia Miles looks like. She is extraordinary, very beautiful, very talented. The book is not easy to read because it covers the subject of slavery in the 17 and 1800s, and it's obviously not nice by any means, but this is something that I've been trying to educate myself on, and so I do try to read books like this and learn everything that I can. So I heard about this book while I was reading something else, and they were talking about good material, and then I got online and found out that my library could rustle this up for me from another library, and that's how I got it. So even though I didn't finish the book, I want to share it with you because I think it's important and because it is so well written. It's not an easy read, not just because the subject matter is difficult, but the writer is extremely educated. Her use of the English language is fabulous, but it's not easy. It's written by a very educated person. It's not written to necessarily entertain. It's written to teach us. So those are good books to read, right? Okay, so in 1850, a woman named Rose, who is an unfree person, she is an enslaved woman, her 9-year-old daughter, Ashley, gets sold. So, before Ashley is taken away, which is just a couple days later, Mom, Rose, takes a sack that is the kind of a sack that an enslaved person would have, like either for errands or maybe for cotton. It was a kind of sack that they usually carried. And she put inside the sack a few things for her daughter to take with her. Seeds, a dress, a lock of her own hair, and she talked about how much there would be her mother's love in the bag. Now this is a picture of the writing, the embroidery that was put on the bag later, listing the things that Rose put in the bag for Ashley. Okay, so she puts these things in the bag for the child. The child would have been gone within a couple of days. That's how they did it back then. When you sold a child from a parent, they went away. At that time period, she probably would have gone inland, probably started out on the coast, and then the child was sold to go to another plantation inland. So a few decades later, Ashley's granddaughter, who is also still enslaved, she has the sack. And they've been passing down the story. Now, Rose never sees Ashley again. Ashley never sees her mother again. That's it. So she sees her till she's 9, Mom gives her a bag, she leaves. That's it. Now you know why this was such a hard thing to read. So Ashley's granddaughter, the child's granddaughter, now has the bag and she knows the story. Well, the granddaughter, for whatever reason, has learned how to write, and she embroiders on the sack the contents according to the story that is being handed down. So the contents of the sack, as embroidered, it says, "My great-grandmother Rose, mother of Ashley, gave her this sack when she was sold at age 9 in South Carolina. It held a tattered dress, 3 handfuls of pecans, and a braid of Rose's hair. Told her, 'It be filled with my love always.' She never saw her again. Ashley is my grandmother." And then she's embroidered her own name in, Ruth Middleton, 1920. So far, everybody here is still an enslaved person. So, a few more decades go by, and the sack is found in the rag bin of a secondhand store. And this is after slavery has been gone for a while. That sack was just around for a really long time. We don't know the story of what happened in that, but somebody recognized it for what it was when they were scrounging around a secondhand store looking for things. And thank goodness that they did, because what a wonderful find. Now I have a note here to myself to read the last sentence on page 163. All right. 163, the last sentence. "This dress, belonging first to Rose and then to Ashley, a fabric scar, a second skin, a shield, was a sign of women's lives frayed by slavery, but nevertheless resplendent with beauty." The book talks a lot about what clothing meant to women in the South, to women of wealth, to free women, and to enslaved women. Enslaved women were not allowed to wear much in the way of clothes, and clothing and the ability to separate your being, your body, from the outside world gave you significance in the world. It gave you protection. It marked you as your vulnerability and whether you were a slave or not. Okay. So, the book covers slavery from the late 1700s to the early 1800s in Charleston, South Carolina. There's another reading here, page 170. Okay. Here, the glitz was shadowed by what Harriet Martineau called a moral gloom. This gloom oppressed the spirit of the stranger in Charleston and fomented the discomfort of residents who were never content in a society composed of 2 classes, which entertain a mortal dread of one another. The presence of a mistreated and commodified Black majority fed anxiety among white elites who built an elaborate apparatus for surveillance and punishment between the late 1700s and early 1800s to cauterize resistance and ensure compliance. The only way to compel submission was through force. The force of physical violence, the force of psychological threat, the force of intimidating brick, stone, and iron environments. Charleston constructed an architecture of racial control, made up of private homes surrounded by high walls, as we have seen, and municipal watchtowers and workhouses. city officials fostered a pseudo-militarization of public space consisting of a hired slave patrol that harassed Black people who were out on the streets without written passes or after curfew, who had failed to display the slave badges required by law for unfree people hired out by their owners to work for others in the city. Now, you might have caught that if a person owned a slave, that person could hire the slave out. So when they're through working for one owner, they could be hired out to be used or misused, which happened a lot, by another person. Now, it was just a terrible, terrible time for everyone. So, what else do I want to say? I guess I just want to say that I wish I'd had time to finish reading the book. I had to stop and leave and come back to it many, many times. And I am sure glad that the sack was found and that this beautiful piece of literature was written. I thank Tia Miles for her research and her work. And I guess that's it. Just my Aunt Effie. See you next time.